Remember when the strangest family on TV made dark humor feel totally normal inside their creepy mansion? When the Addams Family hit ABC in 1964, it only ran for 2 seasons, but it left a wild impression that still sticks today. Gomez and Morticia Addams, played by John Astin and Carolyn Jones, brought serious passion and mystery to the screen as a couple deeply in love in their own unusual way. Their kids added even more chaos to the mix. Wednesday, played by Lisa Loring, had that cold, eerie vibe, while Pugsley, played by Ken Weatherwax, was always caught up in bizarre experiments and strange fun. Then you had Lurch, the massive and silent butler brought to life by Ted Cassidy, towering over everyone like a walking shadow. And of course, Uncle Fester, played by Jackie Coogan, brought his own brand of oddball energy that made every scene feel unpredictable. What viewers saw on screen was already strange enough, but behind the scenes, things got even more shocking, messy, and straight up unbelievable. Today we're breaking down 10 weird facts about the Addams Family that most people never heard about. And trust me, it gets wild. Stick around for number 1. Because turning into Morticia took 2 hours every single morning, and that dress situation was way worse than anyone expected. Before we dive in, hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so more retro TV fans can find this madness. Now let's step inside that mansion and see what really went down. Number 10, the real Victorian didn't just sit there looking spooky, it straight up ended up erased from history as a parking lot. That crooked towering mansion from the opening credits looked like it didn't want visitors anywhere near it. But here's the twist, it was a real Victorian house at 21 Chester Place in Los Angeles. The pilot episode actually shot there, using the real exterior with zero tricks, and it carried the whole eerie vibe on its own. The house already looked unsettling, long before any camera crew rolled in, like it was waiting for something strange after that first episode filming moved on, because shooting on location was too expensive and way too unpredictable. So the art team stepped in and replaced it with a matte painting, tweaking it into a twisted Gothic version with an extra tower that looked like it blocked out the sun. Most viewers never even noticed the switch, but the porch details told a whole different story if you paid close attention. Then real life hit hard. The actual mansion was demolished in 1967 to make space for a school track and a parking lot. Today, all that's left is a single decorative 6-globe street lamp standing where the mansion once ruled the street. Number 9, the Addams Family didn't just entertain people, they were tied to a bigger Hollywood shakeup that started way before Uncle Fester was casually lighting bulbs with his mouth on a network sitcom. Before the bald head, before the bowler hat, Jackie Coogan was already a massive deal in Hollywood history. Coogan had been one of the biggest child stars ever seen, especially after starring alongside Charlie Chaplin in the 1920s. That kid went from silent film fame to becoming one of the first true child superstars, pulling in millions at a time when that kind of money completely changed the game around him. It looked like unstoppable success from the outside, but things took a sharp turn later on. When he grew up and finally got control of his finances, he discovered almost everything was gone. His mother and stepfather had spent it on furs, jewelry, and luxury items, turning what should have been a success story into a national shockwave. The wild part? It was all technically legal at the time. Child actors didn't own their earnings. Parents did, meaning every dollar Coogan made as a kid legally belonged to someone else. He sued in 1938, but after legal costs, he only recovered about $126,000 out of $250,000 remaining, out of an estimated $4 million total earned. The rest had already vanished. The public backlash hit hard, forcing Hollywood into an uncomfortable spotlight over how it treated child performers it profited from. California responded in 1939 with the Coogan Law, though stronger protections came later after years of loophole fixes. Today, the rule is clear. Employers must set aside 15% of a child actor's earnings into a protected Coogan account, locked away until adulthood, making sure that history doesn't repeat itself so easily again. Number 8, Gomez was almost Lurch, and that alone flips the whole story upside down in a wild way. John Astin didn't even walk into the Addams Family audition aiming for Gomez. He actually showed up ready to play Lurch, the slow-moving, silent, stone-faced butler who barely reacts to anything and mostly communicates through posture and cold, quiet disapproval. Now picture that for a second. Astin, who performs like he's running on pure chaos energy with no breaks at all, auditioning for a role that literally demands stillness, silence, and zero emotional spikes. It's such a mismatch, it almost feels unreal. Producers caught it fast, but instead of cutting him loose, creator and producer David Levy made a sharper move. Wrong role, right actor. They flipped it and handed him Gomez instead. At that point, the character wasn't even fully shaped yet, which opened the door for something way more interesting to happen. Levy basically gave Astin free reign, and that's when things really took off. He built Gomez from scratch with no strict limits. That manic spark, the fast-talking rhythm, and the intense, almost over-the-top devotion to Morticia, all of it came straight from Astin himself, not a rigid script. It hit like lightning on set. The contrast ended up being pure gold for the show. Gomez became loud, fast, and constantly operating like he was one joke away from chaos breaking loose. Meanwhile, Lurch stayed locked in silence, slow and heavy, moving like nothing in the world could rush him or change his mood. Number 7. Lurch was never supposed to say a single word, and that's what makes this whole thing so wild. When Ted Cassidy got cast as Lurch, the role was basically stripped down to one job: stand there, look massive, and stay completely silent. The character was written as a background shadow, just showing up when the gong rang, then fading back into the darkness without ever saying anything at all. It was like he was part of the furniture, not even meant to interact beyond presence alone. That plan held until the pilot episode hit. The family rings the gong, Lurch steps in, and Cassidy makes a split-second move that nobody expected. He speaks. Just 2 words, but they hit like a shockwave. "You rang," delivered in a deep, heavy voice that sounded like it crawled up from underground and took its time getting there. The entire set flipped instantly. Crew, producers, everyone lost it right there on the spot. It became obvious fast that keeping him silent would have been a massive waste. The writers pivoted immediately and rewrote Lurch on the fly. He went from background filler to one of the most iconic presences in the whole show. 2 improvised words changed everything, and after that moment, Lurch was never just silent decoration again. Number 6. The family pet wasn't just unusual. It came with a full-blown safety protocol that sounds almost unbelievable today. The Addams family's so-called pet kitty cat was actually a real retired circus lion brought onto a network sitcom set like it was just another normal production decision. And yes, there was a trained handler on set at all times. That sounds reassuring on paper, until you realize the reason you need a full-time trainer is because there is literally a lion hanging around a comedy show set every day. That alone changes the whole vibe instantly. Things got even more strict when it came to the child actors Lisa Loring and Ken Weatherwax, who played Wednesday and Pugsley. They were completely banned from the set whenever the lion was present. The rule was simple and non-negotiable. If the lion is here, you are not coming in today. No exceptions, no questions asked. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Most of what audiences actually saw on screen wasn't even fresh footage. It was stock clips reused over and over again. Shots of the lion walking downstairs or letting out a controlled growl straight into the camera. Those same moments kept appearing across multiple episodes, quietly reused like nothing was unusual at all. In the end, the most high-maintenance cast member also had the smallest actual workload. Kitty Cat fit into the Addams household in the strangest way possible, calm, controlled, and somehow perfectly in sync with the chaos around it. Number 5, the most recognizable TV theme of its time, was made on a budget so tight it almost feels unreal. That iconic finger-snapping Addams Family theme sounds like a full, eerie chorus locked together in perfect harmony, right? But the truth is way more surprising. It was basically just one guy doing everything. Composer Vic Mizzy walked into the studio ready to build something big, only to find out Filmways wasn't paying for backup singers at all. So he did what only a determined composer would do. He became the entire choir himself. He recorded his voice, then recorded it again and again and again, layering multiple takes until he had what sounded like a full group, but was actually just 4 versions of Vic Mizzy stacked on top of each other through pure studio trickery and stubborn creativity. That eerie chorus everyone remembers, built from overdubs and determination alone. Then there's Ted Cassidy, who brought in those deep, cold eye injection style lines with a voice that felt like it came from beneath the floorboards, anchoring the whole thing with a heavy, shadowy presence. And the harpsichord wasn't random either. It was chosen on purpose to give that haunted old castle energy, like a place where happiness hasn't existed since centuries ago. Even the finger snaps themselves weren't left to chance. Mizzy went to the set personally and coached the entire cast on how to snap for the opening credits. He had very specific directions, Gomez and Morticia were supposed to snap like nothing in the world could bother them, completely calm while surrounded by chaos. It's honestly one of the most perfectly in-character production choices ever made on a TV set. Filmways refusing to pay for backup singers accidentally created something far more iconic. Mizzy himself later joked that the theme was so successful, it basically earned him a house in Bel Air. Number 4, the creepiest house on TV wasn't actually dark, dusty, or covered in shadows like everyone assumed. It was secretly painted in bright colors that would completely shock you. That Addams Family mansion looked like it was soaked in darkness and crawling with age cobweb energy, but in reality it was pink, black, and white mixed together in a very intentional way. Television back then had a major visual problem. Dark colors would blur together on camera, blacks would eat up detail, and browns would turn into a muddy mess that ruined everything on screen. So the art department had to get creative in a big way. They built what looked like a haunted mansion using pink walls, red tones, and even touches of turquoise. It sounds like a wild color choice, but on camera it transformed into something rich, shadowy, and perfectly eerie. Even Morticia's vibe would have probably clashed with it in real life, but on screen it just worked like magic. The illusion didn't stop with the set either. The cast was carefully styled to match the strange visual trickery. Makeup artists used green, purple, and brown tones to keep faces from washing out under those harsh studio lights. Morticia, in particular, ended up looking effortlessly pale and elegant on camera, even though in person her makeup would have looked intense enough to stop a conversation cold. And the mansion itself wasn't even fully original. It reused parts from older MGM sets, including leftovers from the unsinkable Molly Brown. The studio basically raided storage for anything that felt unsettling or offbeat. Old props, repurposed furniture, even random taxidermy pieces. If it had the right creepy energy, it got thrown into the mix without hesitation. Number 3, the Addams Family didn't even have proper names at the start, and that twist changes everything you thought you knew. Gomez, Morticia, Wednesday, Pugsley, some of the most iconic names in TV history, but none of them exist until someone finally had to sit down and create them from scratch. Charles Addams spent decades drawing this strange Gothic family for The New Yorker without ever naming a single one of them. They were just eerie, silent figures living in panels with no identities, no introductions, nothing but pure, unsettling energy. And honestly, that anonymous style made them even creepier on the page. Back then, single-panel cartoons didn't really need explanations, so nobody got names at all. But that started to shift over time in stages, and things slowly got more structured. Morticia and Wednesday were actually the first to get official names, created for a licensed doll line in 1962. Morticia came straight from Mortician, which is about as blunt as it gets, no subtlety, just straight up dark wordplay. Wednesday was pulled from the old nursery rhyme, Wednesday's child is full of woe, which basically explains her entire personality in one clean shot. That detail alone locked in her identity perfectly. Gomez and Pugsley didn't get their names until the TV show was in development 2 years later. At one point, Addams had a very different idea for Gomez, Repelli, as in repellent, which already tells you everything about the tone they were playing with. But John Astin stepped in and made the better call when choosing between options, shaping what we now recognize instantly. Pugsley, meanwhile, was almost stuck with the name Hubert, but network standards shut that down immediately. Even the surname Addams itself wasn't originally meant to be a family name at all. It was just the creator's signature on his original cartoons. It only became the official family name once the show needed something solid to build around. Number 2, one actor secretly played 2 characters at the same time and even played mind games with the audience without anyone fully realizing it. Thing was already one of the strangest ideas on 1960s television, a disembodied hand living inside boxes, drawers, and hidden wall compartments, treated by the Addams family like it was just another normal part of daily life. No explanation, no hesitation, just pure acceptance of a floating hand roaming the house like it belonged there. But then Ted Cassidy decided to push it even further. At the start of the series, Thing was shown as a right hand, simple, consistent, nothing unusual, until Cassidy quietly started switching it up. One episode it would be a right hand, the next it would be a left, then back again with zero explanation. It wasn't a mistake, it was a deliberate little experiment to see if anyone in the audience would actually notice the shift. Most people didn't, and those who did just accepted it anyway, which says everything about how strange the show really was. Behind the scenes, the setup was already ridiculous. Cassidy stood at 6'9", which meant playing Thing required him to lie flat on his back under the set on a wheeled platform. reaching his arm through hidden compartments built into furniture pieces. That alone was a physical challenge most people never think about when watching a sitcom. And here's where it gets even more layered. When scenes required both Lurch and Thing at the same time, Cassidy couldn't physically do both roles, so a stand-in was used for the hand while Cassidy performed Lurch elsewhere, meaning Thing's identity was already flexible by design, and Cassidy made it even more unpredictable just for the fun of it. Number 1. Morticia's effortless glide had a way darker and way more uncomfortable explanation than anyone expected. Carol Jones made Morticia look completely smooth and untouchable on screen, moving through every scene like she was floating through space without effort at all, unhurried, calm, like she'd arrived on Earth already fully formed that way. But behind the camera, it was a totally different story that took real time, real effort, and a lot of patience every single morning. That effortless vibe was built from hours of preparation that most viewers never even thought about. It started with the wig. That jet black hair everyone remembers wasn't even real. It was a full hairpiece carefully rebuilt and styled from scratch every day. Then came the makeup, using that intense mix of greens, purples, and muted tones that looked like abstract art up close but turned into pure Gothic perfection once it hit the screen. It already took up a huge chunk of the morning, and the day hadn't even really started yet. Then came the dress, and that's where things got serious fast. The gown was a hobble dress, tight, restrictive, and designed in a way that basically limited how much she could move the moment she put it on. The wardrobe team didn't just design a look, they basically locked in her movement style for her. Small, controlled steps weren't a choice, they were the only option left once she was inside it. It looked elegant, but it came with a cost that wasn't visible on screen. Getting in and out of it was a whole process too. The costume crew even had to add Velcro at the back just so she could change between takes without a full struggle. At the end of every filming day, it still took around 20 minutes just to carefully remove it. That smooth glide Morticia had in every room wasn't just acting, it was a wardrobe system forcing a very specific kind of movement whether she liked it or not. There you have it, everyone. 10 weird and wild facts about the Addams family. From strange behind-the-scenes choices to shocking little production secrets, this one had a lot more going on than it ever showed on screen. Drop a comment with the fact that surprised you the most. I want to know which moment actually caught you off guard. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into classic TV chaos. Until next time, this is $21.